You've been to countless speech therapy appointments, you've practiced sounds at home, tried every technique that the therapist suggested, and spent countless hours and thousands of dollars. And maybe you've even had a tongue and lip tie release for your child, yet they are still struggling to communicate, still plateauing, and still frustrated. You watch other children their age chattering away while your little one remains silent or difficult to understand, and you can't help but wonder, what are we missing? Here's what no one is telling you. Nearly 1 in 12 US children ages 3 to 17 have experienced a voice, speech, language, or swallowing disorder, and the vast majority are receiving the same traditional approach that focuses on the output or the speech muscles and sounds while completely missing what's happening on the input and coordination in the brain and sensory nervous system. The real problem isn't that your child needs more speech drills or muscle exercises to fix the output. The problem is that the stress and interference within their nervous system is disrupting the very foundation of how speech develops and functions. Speech delays and other communication challenges are most often an input and processing problem, way more than an output or expression problem, which is why traditional speech therapy and other classic interventions alone may not be enough for your child to get the results that you so badly want for them. We're going to dive deep into the 3-step neurological process of speech development and function and revealing how subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, and vagus nerve interference create the perfect storm for speech delays. You'll discover why addressing these root causes through neurologically focused care can unlock breakthrough progress and traditional therapy alone often cannot achieve. Let me tell you about Cohen, whose transformation. We're diving deep into the 3-step neurological process of speech development and function and revealing how subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, and vagus nerve interference create the perfect storm for speech delays. You'll discover why addressing these root causes through neurologically focused care can unlock breakthrough progress that traditional therapy alone often can't achieve. Let me tell you about Cohen, whose transformation perfectly illustrates what we're talking about. Before finding neurologically focused chiropractic care, Cohen had a severe speech delay with difficulty initiating sounds and very little sound production. His parents were struggling to find support beyond speech therapy because everything that they read stated that Cohen's struggles were neurological in origin. There must be some way to stimulate his nervous system, we kept asking ourselves. When they found a PX doc, the scans revealed exactly what they suspected. There was a disconnect with how Cohen's nervous system was processing information and coordinating actions like movement and speech. His parents said, looking through his scans and talking with the docs, it all made sense why he was struggling and why progress had been so slow. Then came the breakthrough. About 2 months into neurologically focused care, it seemed like a switch flipped for Cohen. He started producing way more sounds than before. He began initiating sounds and words on his own without prompting from others. And lately, he has just been talking away. Today, Cohen has gained about 3 years of progress in just 3 months and is finishing speech services, having met all of his goals in record time. Let's break down how speech actually works from a neurological perspective. Speech production is a complex, sequential 3-step process that most people don't understand. First, sensory and auditory signals are received by the brain, so an input. Then the brain processes and integrates this information, or integration. And then finally, the brain sends coordinated signals to speech muscles, the output. This is the 3 steps. While most people assume that speech delays stem from muscle problems in the output stage, the real issues typically occur upstream in the brain and nervous system's input and integration process. When subluxation and nervous system dysfunction interfere with these early stages, no amount of muscle exercises or speech drills can fully compensate for the neurological breakdown happening in the brain. So now we want to understand subluxation and its impact on speech development. Subluxation refers to misalignment, reduced range of motion, and neurological interference within the nervous system that disrupts brain-body communication pathways. This interference affects nerve signals controlling speech muscles, leads to difficulties in motor planning, or what they call apraxia, and creates abnormal muscle tone and coordination issues in the mouth, face, and respiratory muscles. Birth interventions like forceps, vacuum extraction, and C-sections can physically injure the delicate upper cervical area and brainstem regions that house these critical nerves, controlling speech and communication. So now let's talk about the critical role that the vagus nerve dysfunction plays in speech delays. The vagus nerve controls the vocal cords through its recurrent laryngeal branch, and dysfunction leads to problems with vocalization, pitch, volume, and speech clarity. Proper speech production requires precise coordination of breathing and swallowing, both of which are directly influenced by vagus nerve function. When the vagus nerve is dysfunctional, it dysregulates the autonomic nervous system and stress responses, keeping children stuck in fight or flight mode, which further exacerbates speech and communication problems. So, how does a PX doc address the real root cause of these speech delays? Our approach begins with identifying the perfect storm triggers in a child's case history, particularly birth trauma and early life stressors that create neurological dysfunction. Then we use advanced insight scans like this one to precisely locate and measure subluxation and nervous system dysfunction that conventional providers cannot detect. Here on the scan, you can see that there are a lot of interference. Those colored bars tell us that the nervous system isn't working well in that area. And that's that area that we talk about where the vagus nerve and the brainstem live. And if we have a lot of interference in that area, then we are going to notice a lot of dysfunction, not just with speech and breathing, but it can host a lot of other things as well. Speech delays often aren't about the mouth or the tongue. They're about the nervous system's ability to properly coordinate the three-step process of input, coordination, and then the expression of speech. Chiropractic care works to restore the connection and efficiency of that pathway so that kids can find their voice, get more out of speech therapy, and get back on track developmentally. If everything that we talked about in this video sounds all too familiar and you'd like to learn more about speech delays, the insight scans, and how to address the neurological root causes of your child's speech therapy that it might be missing, you can click on the link in our bio on Instagram, comment below, or you can send us a DM.